It's a
Kelly,
Zipfel.
I think we're live. Ed, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Zip, are you there? Do we have audio?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people used to mistake his name when we worked together in the 80s, and they would call, I like that guy with you, Skip. Skip is great. I love everything he does.
He looks a little skippy
Yeah.
and
So,
sketchy.
we're also going to have Spike O'Neill tonight and Andrew Rivers and Shawn Alexander, our dear attorney friend who will weigh in on things legal and sometimes not. The collapse of that bank, SVB, which I know you watch a lot of cable news. Zip, Skip, you were probably fascinated by that.
Yes, I was. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So are we ready to go?
Anybody
We
lose
are.
any money?
I just want to mention that evidently Ed and I have the same bedhead hairdresser.
Fantastic.
The Bob and Zip Show with Ed Kelly.
Okay, to start off tonight, first off, I want to thank the Black River Innovation Campus because that's where I'm broadcasting from in Springfield, Vermont. I'm also teaching a podcasting class here, although teaching is the wrong word because I'm an old guy and Twitch is what I do involuntarily because of neuropathies. But anyway, I do want to say we have an incredible group of students. And at least one or two of them will end up being guests on this podcast. There is
excellent.
one who is a specialist in medical weed. There is another
Medical marijuana. Wow.
That's right. To balance that out, there is another who is doing a podcast on pandemic parents, parents who have to deal with what their kids missed out during the pandemic. And I know.
Right.
I know that Spike is interested in that sort of thing as well. So that'll be coming on a future show. I am making maple syrup. Barely made it here tonight. So let's bring on some of our cohorts here. Oh, and we'll add Spike in. Spike has a glitch with his phone that whenever we add someone in, he loses his sound. Do you have your sound now?
I'm fine, but as soon as Andrew or Shawn or anybody from your podcast class comes on, I lose all sound. And I'll just log out and log back in and it reconnects for some reason. So
that's perfect. It's called a workaround.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, Twitchy.
I'll tell you, I supposedly teach the podcast class, but I learn so much from the students. And it's actually a thrill. It's an honor. So I want to start tonight by hearkening back to a discussion we had several weeks ago. I think you were all here, where I lamented the death, which was called prematurely by Tom Petty, of the DJ, and talked about how Spotify could fix that problem. Does everybody remember the summary of that?
I don't think I was here for that, but I'm buying the premise.
Okay, I'll give you the really bullet point version. On YouTube, there are these people who make their own channels, and they're called influencers. And they can actually make a decent living, sometimes a fantastic living, and become stars. Thing is, they're selling electronics. They're doing all kinds of work, advertising work for people, and they become influencers, and they get paid. My son is an influencer. He's a comedian. He gets somewhere close to 3 million views a month, and I'll let him talk about it. But both YouTube and Facebook, I believe, send him a check, and they may be a huge portion of his employment. So that's fantastic. But over the years, what I used to do, be a radio DJ, and Zip, you were a DJ. Spike, you were never, and Ed, I don't think you were denigrated to that level where you just spun records.
Yes. No, I started out that way. I spun.
Oh, you did spun records?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah. And it was not even a respected profession back then, at least by my dad, who said, when are you going to get a real job? You'll never
have a backup plan.
Yeah. He said, you'll never make any money spinning records.
Bob Rivers, you'll never amount to anything. I'm ashamed of you. Vinyl in a circle. Come on.
But then it became air personality.
Yes.
Rather than DJ.
And when I got to, and Spike, you're a brilliant one, Ed, still on a major market show. When I got to be an air personality, my dad said, is it too late for me to get in on this racket?
So you
looks-
talk, and they pay you just to talk.
That's right. And you're full of shit. Joe's not here tonight, so I'll let the S word squeak by. So,
Yes.
all right. So years ago, I met the inventor of Apple iTunes. I actually looked him and another fella up, and they're on the patents for the iTunes player. He told Steve Jobs that, and his wife, that if they made the songs 99 cents, they could completely revolutionize the music industry and sell songs. And of course, that led to streaming and so many other things. When they started iTunes Radio, I suggested to this guy at Apple that he should hire me. And he said, yeah, we're going to buy Beats instead. We're not looking for white-haired old DJs. So it didn't happen. But what I had told them back then, and still it's amazing to me that it hasn't happened now, is that a DJ, a music host, is an influencer.
Mhm.
And that, like the model of YouTube, these programs like Spotify or Bezos-fi or whatever all the ones are, Apple, they should create software much like this TV studio in a browser
Mhm.
that allows you access to all the music they've licensed. And they should have these influencers talk to audiences. Can you imagine a 20-something hot guy or girl? By the way, there's pictures now, so we would have never had a job. But hey,
Oh, I had an idea. I'm gonna a station that plays only kids songs. I'm gonna call it Pedify. What do you think? And I'm the perfect face for that.
so
Yeah.
yes, the thing about the internet, no matter how small your niche.
They will find you out.
So anyway, I've been saying for a while, Spotify ought to do this. Well, Spotify has done something. And by the way, whenever I think something should be invented on the internet, and I have some pride in this, usually it gets invented.
What about Spikeify? That was a flat failure.
Yeah, it was.
So yesterday or the day before, Spotify came out with a press release on its brand new DJ.
Oh my God.
Now, they've tried things. Apple tried hiring Taylor Swift, and they bought Beats Music, and they try to put stars on with their own channels, and no one wants to hear Bruce Springsteen play Bruce Springsteen songs.
Well, Taylor Swift kept breaking up. So
With herself.
And by the way, why is Springsteen's canceling shows? Spike?
Yeah.
COVID.
He has COVID?
Not him, but several members of the band. I can't believe I got to see the show with the entire band intact.
All right. I'm just glad it's not. Can't sell enough tickets.
No, that ain't the problem.
All right. So here I search because of this class. There's someone in my podcast class who's really a musicologist. And I asked everyone in the class to describe what kind of podcast they'd like to create, because you can make anything these days.
sure.
And this really passionate guy about music said, I'd like to talk to people about music and curate the new stuff that's coming out and tell people what's good and what's not. And I'm like, that was a free-form progressive FM DJ back in the day.
That was
Do you
AOR.
smoke weed? Because that's paramount.
That's
Yeah.
a different guy that we're going to interview, by the way.
Mm.
So,
It's actually a prerequisite.
well, we did back then.
Yeah.
In fact, the big DJ in New Haven was a guy named Stone Man. Remember him? You ever hear him?
No, that predates me.
Okay.
My days in New Haven. Sorry.
And then a friend of mine, Pete Stone, was also called Stone Man because there were probably 100 Stone Mans out there. But anyway, so Spotify releases this thing, and I'm
Stone Man.
you can do the jingle. I'm gonna ask our Dave, our dev guy. Dave, do we have that Spotify clip? I want to play the promotional video first about their AI DJ. This is their new big thing they've just announced.
I've already seen this. Yeah.
They've reinvented the DJ. Do we have it, Dave?
I'm looking. Let's see where I put it.
Take your time. See, this
Not-
is what's
not-
nice about having a human being on your stage.
Not the TikTok one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No, not the TikTok one is the joke. That's the one for last. Okay.
Inside the making of.
It just play one of it.
Hey Max, I'm X, your own personal AI DJ on Spotify. Let's go. Introducing DJ, the best of Spotify made just for you, one tap away. Hey, I'm super excited to show you a little more behind the scenes on how we brought the DJ to life. First, I want to introduce you to someone very special to me. I wouldn't be here without him. It's the real X. It's fun hearing your own voice introduce you. Hey, what's going on? I'm Xavier Jernigan. My friends call me X, and I'm the first voice model for the DJ. The voice you just heard sounds like mine, but I never said those actual words. It was made by AI based on my voice.
Having your very own DJ takes personalization to a whole new level. It creates deeper, more meaningful connections to your favorite artists, and it makes it much more likely that you will discover new ones. The only way this is made possible is with the powerful combination of three things. The perfect selection of music just for you, spoken to you
by a stunningly realistic AI voice,
and enriched with relevant context about the songs and artists. That context is created by bringing together state-of-the-art generative AI with the passion and expertise of our human editors.
Our editorial teams around the world are really music and culture experts. It's this human editorial expertise married with the very best of cutting-edge technology that is Spotify's superpower. I'm personally really excited about DJ. We're able to harness this power to tell an artist's story, to put context around their work and their songs in a much broader cultural arena like never before.
All right, now you know a bit about how it all works. When you're ready to meet your own DJ, just head over to the Spotify app. I'll be waiting for you.
Thank you, Ice-T Jr.
Okay.
I was busy looking for my gun to put it in my mouth.
So before I want everybody to comment, but I'll just say this. At least broadcast radio had the decency to make actual human beings obsolete.
Yeah.
It actually had DJs before they axed them. Okay.
Yes.
And there's a few left, and God bless you if you're a survivor. Seriously, you're you and Keith Richards. I don't know how you made it. So, all right. How bad is this? I'm gonna start with Ed. Ed.
Hello, I'm Keith Richards. Welcome to my show. Today we're going to learn how to play minor E, and 4 chords is all you need, by the way, to make it rock and roll.
The problem with that, by the way, is that you could tell the AI, be a DJ in the voice of Keith Richards, and they would probably do it. Ah! Okay. Zipfel.
Yeah.
To what end? To what end? That's what I asked.
This is the problem. They believe that they know what you want, and they should tell you what you want, just like radio consultants, by the way. And it has never occurred to them that if they opened up the platform, and instead of we're going to make a computer, we're going to make Mr. Roboto with your voice. If they just said, here's the software, here's the music licensing, go on and do a show and see if you could attract an audience, they would create stars and influencers like YouTube. And by the way,
if you build it, we will come.
Yes.
Jesus.
Thank you. Spike.
He too will come.
Driving the last 2,000 people out of the business. It's AI DJ. I mean, seriously?
It is so bad. Yeah.
We don't need humans for anything. I mean, here's the problem. My greatest moments in radio have been mistakes and when I totally screw up beyond belief.
Yeah.
Unless you can teach a computer to actually dumb itself down, I'm solid. I'll have a job.
Artificial stupidity. He's onto something here.
I'm telling you. Just keep blowing pot smoke at your computer nonstop till it dumps down.
Well, if you've watched John Oliver's bit on AI, have any of you watched that?
I have.
It's freaking incredible. He actually talks about some of the mistakes AI makes. And I think we're going to cue Dave to play. Already, this is being mocked by young people. Watch this. A TikTok video.
And that was Breakins. I'm going to change the vibe a little bit. I can tell from your listening that you have never had sex. So I'm going to play some silly tunes for little virgin losers like you. Here's Monty PK.
That's hilarious. I love it. It's a whole new form of parody. Just when you thought it was dead.
But it does create a deeper and deeper echo chamber of what could be, poisonous thought.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, I mean, take out pop songs and put in hate
Always
groups,
look on.
and then have AI send you even more hateful, racist, hate group, extremist videos after that. And basically, you just talked about TikTok's algorithm, right? Completely. That's Facebook's algorithm. That's everybody. Whatever engages your eyeballs, you get more of.
Yeah, that is one of the big challenges of AI, which John Oliver really talks about well, and he shows some of its major screw ups. But back to just the DJ, it was just so sad. I sort of feel like, what other professions have I mean, other than buggy whip manufacturer, and here's a profession that could be huge, and I'll tell you why. And I think I know why they don't do it. It's about licensing. So their music licenses are negotiated with record companies and rights holders. And if they started creating these DJs playing on their platform, they might have to redo those licenses. So there are some companies that do that with software, and you pay a subscription like $39 a month to play DJ. But it should,
pay to play. Great.
It should be free. And by the way, if you went to the record companies and you said, how would you like a whole new revenue stream of influencers who, just like they sell electronic products, would sell your music because these curators, these young people with a huge following, would make. And then Spotify could also say, and by the way, if you give us those extra rights, we'll push you to the top. Because Spotify, iTunes, I believe, I don't have proof, they are all doing what we used to call payola.
Yeah, only Dick Clark's not involved this time out.
This time, yes. And he's almost, if he had lived just a couple more years, he could have.
This Dick Clark. Guess
remember
what?
remember when people went to jail for that, for taking money to move a product up on the playlist? That's part of what Spotify does.
Yeah.
And so
no 8 balls though.
Remember when Mr. Carlson's foot went numb because Johnny told him it was foot powder?
KRP in Cincinnati reference. Is that true?
It was a great episode.
Oh, it sounded like
so it's foot powder, and he put it in his sock, and all of a sudden his foot's asleep, and he's banging his thumb.
Came from a record guy. Anyway, that's topic number one. There's a whole crowd of people, and if you do a Google search on this, there's a whole bunch of people who would love to curate music and be DJs and actually do radio shows on the internet, but you can't. And people like us too. There are things I'd love to play to you that I find they're copyrighted. I cannot on this show report on cool stuff I found during the week by playing you a clip. That Spotify clip we'll get away with because it's a PR clip for Spotify, and we're doing editorial maybe we won't get away with it. It'd be interesting to see if Spotify's algorithm
picks up on their own.
Very possible. Host GPT. I like it. Well, there was some software, by the way, that allowed you to DJ with Spotify, and Spotify nixed it 2 years ago. They made it no longer compatible. All right. So that's topic number one. Topic number two, I'd like to bring in Shawn Alexander. This was probably, hi, Shawn.
Greetings.
You're on Orcas Island. Life is good.
Yeah. Good day today.
Good. Probably the biggest news story of the past week was a collapse of a bank. SVB. Yeah. SVB, Silicon Valley Bank. Everybody see the story and worry a little bit about the economy? Raise your hand if you're worried.
I'm going to give half a figure because I saw a story, but I'm not worried about the economy.
Ed, did you worry?
Yes.
You're in America. From what I've heard, this bank failure could have touched off a chain reaction similar to 2008.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, the powers that be in the federal government met and decided not to bail out the bank, although it sure looks like a bailout.
Yeah, it sure as hell does.
How do you feel about bailing out banks, Ed?
Can I address this, Bob? Can we talk about this?
Please, Shawn, you go first.
All right. So when the bank's insurance program kicks in,
it's a federally guaranteed setup.
FDIC,
But that
right.
doesn't mean that that money is coming from the feds. That means that's coming from that insurance corporation, which is paid for by the banks. Those
Right.
sadly misunderstood bankers.
Yes.
They have to pay insurance.
Those poor
And
bankers.
this is
I feel so bad for them. But that is only up to $250,000.
Correct.
We're talking about billions of dollars.
I understand that. And so, go ahead.
They announced today they're going to cover over 250, but only for only for depositors.
Depositors, and that's the key here. Investors, the shareholders. If you're a shareholder in a bank, and it can be very good. These kind of things. Okay, so now Silicon Valley Bank has a bunch of problems, but they also have a bunch of assets as far as a customer list. People who can spend and lose this kind of money. Some other bank will come in and say, you know what? We're going to help bail you out. We're going to take your assets here. We'll buy you out.
Right. And by the way, if the federal government hadn't come in and guaranteed that money for there were a ton of firms that weren't going to make payroll this week.
Right.
There were a ton of firms that were going to throw people out of work. There were a ton of other banks that would have gone under because this would have been contagion, and anybody involved in tech would have pulled their money out, and everybody would have been watching. It would have. One of the things that could have happened is it could have just been left with the big four banking institutions because nobody would trust anything smaller. That was the worry. And what the Fed did, I saw immediately people whining about how they're bailing out the bank. No, if you worked at the bank, you're fired. If you, were an owner, investor in the bank, you lost your shirt. But if you're one of the depositors who did nothing wrong, your money is 100%. Had that not happened, vultures, as Shawn was describing, would have swooped in.
All right. So let's first talk about how quickly this happened. That damn information superhighway.
That internet.
That
DJ killing internet.
Everybody knowing what's going wrong really hurts things when it goes wrong.
In seconds.
Yeah. Panic.
That's what happened. And bank runs usually take a while because you have to ride from town to town in a stagecoach in the old days to get.
It's not the 30s, and it's not going to be the same way this time.
And so there's another aspect that most people don't realize. Most banks, they loan and deal between other banks. So if someone comes to and says, hey, I need $110 million loan, and they say, well, look, state regulation says we can only loan out 50 million, but the bank across the street will join in. We'll do a joint venture. We'll loan to you. So when these collapses hit, it's a chain reaction, and it can get real ugly.
Now, this particular bank did some stuff on it. So if you were a startup company and you had capital to start up, your employees go to this bank and say, look, I got $3 million worth of shares. They don't vest for 5 or 6 years, but I'd like to buy a house. And they would go, yeah, well, we're Silicon Valley Bank, so we'll loan you money to buy a house. And they would hold on to that loan, as Shawn said, instead of selling it to another bank. But the other thing the thing that shocks people is, why didn't they see this coming? And Shawn pointed it out. It happened so fast that it was destroyed.
Prairie fire.
Oh, it was hellfire. And part of that is the internet, but also part of it is because this bank was actually pretty responsible. Let me finish this one point, Shawn, because you can tell I listened.
Shawn's like,
this. This bank backed a whole lot of what they had with treasuries, T-bills, and they were 10-year treasuries, which are worth what they're worth in 10 years. But if you need to unload them tomorrow, Shawn, you can take it from there.
Well, they're not quite as valuable.
Yes, that's
put
right.
it that way.
Yeah.
So the other reason, because there were not only the information highway, but the regulations had been changed, so no one was looking. And having dealt with state regulations and federal regulations on banking before, the state here in Washington is much more strict. So if you fit the state regulatory guidelines, you exceed the feds. And that's how I saw it but we got into banking right after there was a savings and loan crisis in 95.
Oh, so I should mention Shawn's family. I can say that, right? They owned banks.
You just did. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, you can't say it. Go back
when
in
he
time.
said when he says we're in banking, it's a colloquial we, you know.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure.
I no longer am in banking. And in fact, I'm a convert. Credit unions, my friend.
Yes.
Credit unions and public banking is what needs to happen to avoid this problem in the future.
So after the savings and loan collapse, which we remember decades ago, someone in your family swooped in and
and saved some people. Bob, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah.
We were able to buy a couple of branches of a bank that was forced to by the regulator, said you guys are overextended, you're going to close these branches. And we were able to bid on them and get a couple, which took us from one branch, small bank, to a much bigger bank very quickly. So we had to deal with all these regulations. But we got the lists of all the depositors. And we got those customer lists, and those became our customers. And if they want to change and go somewhere else, that's fine. But we put them back on the street. We said, here's your money is safe. Here it is. There you go. But all that is covered by insurance that's paid for by the industry. This should tell you.
And the other thing, by the way, that we should point out is the last time something like this happened, it was 2008, and it resulted in TARP. Remember what that stands for? Anybody?
Toxic asset.
Troubled asset.
Yeah, well, it was bundling of derivatives. The bad paper.
Troubled Asset Relief Program. And people complained about that. In fact, we did a song called $1 Trillion Bailout about how we all resented that. It turns out the government made money on that because the government doesn't just give.
No.
Except during the pandemic, they gave, and now they're coming to hunt you down if you took it wrongly. So the government will get paid back and actually with interest and make money after these assets recover. And there was nothing underneath these assets that was really all that bad. It was really an internet meme bank failure, as Shawn was pointing out earlier.
This time,
yeah. And I listened to the news today after I was done doing real work, and heard that there was a massive share bonus and sale over the weekend before this happened.
Yeah.
And I went, they're in so much trouble. That is so you can't do that.
That was also, I've heard the response to that, and that was our previously scheduled weeks ago share bonuses for our employees. So it was, those were already baked in. But
we were letting the rich passengers of the Titanic. They'd already scheduled a lifeboat cruise, a junket,
an excursion.
So it was previously scheduled excursion. Yeah.
And it wasn't the Falklands.
No.
So all right, there is some blame there. Certainly blame from the management of the bank. Certainly blame from federal regulators. Didn't they get rid of that Dodd-Frank thing that
Yes, they did. Well,
yeah.
So back in 2018, so restrictive. So happy to see it gone. Yeah. I played the tape twice today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're on it with your show.
Oh,
in other words, we had banking regulations that would have prevented this, and they were trumped. But by the way, I wouldn't even blame that on Trump. Our government routinely removes protections as soon as oxen are all free. Go ahead.
It's a pendulum. It swings back and forth, right?
With administrations,
So all right. There's blame for the regulators for not seeing it coming. There's blame for the bank itself for not acting far enough ahead, and buying those 10-year treasuries meant their money was locked up. They sort of
T-bills.
In aviation,
just put that in the mistake column.
You flew into a box canyon and ran out of altitude and ideas. That's a pilot's word for it. Okay, but there's another important part of this, and that is the Fed has been raising interest rates so fast, and there haven't been any consequence.
Oh, yes, there have. Talk to Canadians.
Tell me the Canadian point.
Well,
of view.
because the Americans are raising the interest rates, but the Canadian banks are not. So the American, everything's indexed to the American dollar. So the Canadian dollar falls in value.
Yeah. I
So
saw
right-
that it's worth that I can buy one for
$1.35.
65 cents or so. Well, it's $1.35 the other way. I can buy a
Yeah.
Canadian dollar for 67 cents.
Poor Jeff here, my buddy.
I can buy the Montreal Canadiens for
had to come to the
$1,100
American
bucks.
side from Canada here to South Carolina.
Interesting, by the way, that Canada isn't following.
The habitants, not the habit, no
There for me
tompadas.
now.
That leave them alone, call it
The rebel yellow of Montreal.
There are some subtle differences, by the way, but interest rates are rising all over the world. We always think America is the only country doing something, and it's usually global monetary shit.
It has
that's
ramifications,
happening. But that's interesting that Canada's a little behind. So the other part of the blame is the Fed. This is the consequence of raising the interest rates, and now they have to decide whether to keep raising the interest rates, which Wall Street doesn't want, or to relax because this bank, it's sort of like the bank's like, I'll slice my own throat if you don't stop raising interest rates. Wall Street is like, see? And so
It's the sheriff from Blazing Saddles. Nobody move. Oh, somebody help that poor man.
Great analogies.
Perfect.
Well, I would tell people to get out of commercial banks, find a credit union, deal with it. It's so much better. They don't pay shareholders, they don't pay taxes, and the members are there. Now they're more conservative on some loans. They won't make you that adjustable rate mortgage that you really shouldn't get. That reverse mortgage that takes grandma's home away. They might not give you that. You might get that at a commercial bank, but you'll be much better off. And people should realize that. In Washington, they're talking about state banking, where the state government will have a bank, and there's also talk of a federal postal service bank. If those things happen, the bankers will scream, but the people will rejoice because you'll no longer pay profit on your money.
All right.
Shawn, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
Sure.
What happened to crypto and all this mess?
I don't know enough about crypto to make an accurate comment.
And by the way, what Shawn just said goes for everyone on the planet. But go ahead, Spike.
No, I can tell you that the two banks that did fold up were heavily invested in crypto speculation. I mean, that's the risky investments they were making with their depositors' money.
They were high risk.
Investing heavily in crypto.
Anything like that.
I heard from Elizabeth Warren, so I'm thinking it's pretty freaking solid.
That's liberal. That's liberal.
On one-on-one over the phone.
That woman knows more about financing than all five of us will ever learn and forget, and that's including Sean.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Warren knows
she's a politician.
financing.
I don't trust her.
Okay.
By the way, I'm willing to be educated, but you see, I'm a radical centrist, and so.
Well, 5 years ago, she warned that this is exactly what was going to happen when they overturned Dodd-Frank.
Oh, well, she's
this
right about
happens
that. Yeah.
every single time.
But
every time, and you could look at it very historically.
Wow.
Look back at 95,
Well, they're
2008.
consistent.
It happens every time. It's because this is where the money is.
Yeah.
That's where the robbing happens. It's just a little different than it used to be.
I'm not hearing anywhere but a politician that crypto was a cause. By the way, I'm down.
No. I'm not saying crypto was the cause. I'm saying the fact that these banks were heavily invested in crypto was some of the speculation that they were. I mean, one of them was Silicon Valley Bank. They financed startups. How many startups make it? I mean, what do you think is going to happen? So they finance
banks have
startups.
been this way for years.
They price for that.
Banks have done this for years. They invest in oil wells, diamond mines, coal mines, and sometimes they bundle crappy mortgages and sell them off to other investors, to other companies.
Yeah, but it's not like one guy can take all the diamonds and coal and move to Antigua like they did with crypto. That was a little different.
Crypto is up about 20%, by the way, after this bank failure, and it may be because the bank failure isn't creating the chain reaction that might have killed crypto investments.
Yeah.
But venture capital. So I'm going to say, I listen to these tech guys, and I believe a lot of what they say. Venture capital is what brought us all of these incredible inventions and all of these incredible services that put people out of work, but also improve.
No, Sean says
You can't fight progress.
People's brains brought us those ideas.
Yes, but without
The
venture
market
capital,
brought
you are not going up. You are not going to be able to get. I have ideas that made billions of dollars for other people with money.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Great, Bob.
Okay.
Can you start me a GoFuckMe page or fund or something?
A GoFundMe page? Did you call it that? Or GoFundMe? Sorry.
Yeah.
Remember, Joe's here. We can't talk.
Oh, Joe.
And it wasn't me. Who had anybody with Spike on the board? Nobody had that.
Nobody
that was
had
a long,
that. So
that was a long odd bet.
All right. Another side note to what's going on with interest rates and the economy. I think we're about to see other collapses. And today, Big Chicken took a fall. Did you hear
What?
Did you hear about Tyson?
No.
Big Chicken. No.
This was Joe's topic. He apologized that he couldn't be here tonight because he's coaching, I think, badminton or volleyball.
Yeah. Full contact badminton. It's a revolutionary sport.
Yeah, I think it's volleyball. Anyway,
I like it.
What do I know? But he pointed out, because he would freak out about chicken. Tyson Chicken is closing 2 plants.
They should.
And laying off a good, not a huge hunk of its workforce. Facebook announced a huge layoff today, by the way, 10% of its workforce. But Tyson Chicken's story was really interesting. I don't know much about economics. I mean, I try to stay neutral and read as much as I can. But honestly, I don't have a degree or anything. But I know this much. Whatever business you're in, there is this thing called a margin of profitability in your business. So back when I was a drug dealer, I didn't say that.
You were an entrepreneur?
He was pushing
When
blow.
I was an entrepreneur attempting a bad startup business. It was high school, and it was mostly, as I mentioned before, it was parsley mixed with oregano. Anyway, the profit margin of those evil kinds of people is like 35 to 50% or more. And if you need more of a margin, you just cut it with parsley. Anyway,
Oh my God.
You just steal what you need if you need more.
or you steal it. In American business, every bank, every publicly reported company has a profit margin, and you can see what their margins are. They have to publicly, if you're a publicly traded company, you have to state it. And notoriously, for example, supermarkets operate on a very low margin. It's just a few percent. And it's very competitive, which is good for you and me, because if it's very competitive, we're not overpaying, right? Other companies that get, they get all kinds of breaks, have a higher margin. I was surprised that Tyson Chicken closed these plants partially because they're getting killed, and they're only at a 3.5% margin. And I guess they fired the CEO. They're closing 2 plants. And they're going to create greater efficiencies at their other. Yeah.
Well, they also just created greater media interest and demand at the same time.
Yeah.
And raised their margins.
They cut supply, right?
By cutting supply, they raised their margins on their remaining stuff.
Right.
Simple. If you're big enough, you can do that.
Don't take away my $5 Costco chickens. I'll find out where you live.
And by the way, buried in the story, there was another announcement that Tyson has introduced a new line of chicken sandwich chicken. You don't have to drive to your fast food restaurant to make those chicken sandwiches you crave right at home. And it occurred to me that when it comes to margins, who has a lot of leverage? A company like McDonald's that's buying a ton of chicken probably get chicken for minute margins, and Tyson's like, we need to go direct to the consumer with these McChicken sandwiches. And so you look at all of that, and this is all going to be affected by the economy and inflation and interest rates and all of this. And Shawn did a great job of predicting what would happen with the pandemic. You think we're in for some more rough sailing in the next year?
This is a sport. It is a rough game. It will continue on. Yes,
Shawn,
we will have problems.
ChickfilA will be spared by the Lord just because we stay closed on Sunday.
They are.
We are a Christian-based chicken organization.
And they hate the gays.
All right. I I got one more, and then it's open season for anybody, and we're going to bring Andrew Rivers on in a little bit too.
I'm gonna have to bounce. I'm gonna bounce when you bring Andrew because I got to get off down the shop.
All right, that's perfect timing anyway because you'd lose your sound.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Tyson Chicken. I had heard Tyson was closing 2 plants because the government said they could only use hind legs in their chicken legs from here on out. So they cut out half the supply chain. So,
Oh boy.
did you see the guy who was actually suing Buffalo Wild Wings?
Yes,
because their boneless chicken wings they're just nuggets. They've been lying to us. They're not boneless wings.
They're not boneless legs.
Nuggets.
You can't grow boneless chicken legs.
Oh.
And all those poor chickens rolling around the yard, unable to walk.
Right. On little roller boards, you know.
They had to get jobs dubbing for the Cadbury Easter Bunny.
Horrible turn.
Spike, I thought of you when I heard this today. It was on John Oliver, and you got to love this. The story about Ron DeSantis. This is raw red meat for you, or what do you call it? And when he was younger and he would go on dates, he used to purposely, and seriously, this is a story about him. I don't know if it's true, but it was on John Oliver, so might be.
Must be true.
He used to, when he dated women, he used to take them out to restaurants, and he used to call them not Thai restaurants. He used to mispronounce it Thai restaurants. Did you hear
let's go get some Thai food at Thai restaurants.
Yeah.
And if they corrected him, he stopped dating them.
All right, you said it. And it was just hilarious. I personally never knew I enjoyed Thai food, but apparently. Okay. Last topic. Everybody, I want to ask you this question. Have you noticed this? Recently, it has come to my attention living in Las Vegas, traveling to Washington, being back on the East Coast, driving Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. It seems to be everywhere.
I've been everywhere, man.
I have been. I have noticed something that is going extinct, seemingly. I'm sure it still exists, but there are fewer and fewer of these. Speed traps. When's the last time you got pulled over for speeding or saw a speed trap anywhere? I've also, it correlates to, especially around Las Vegas, by the way, the average speed is 80 something.
Yeah, I know. What they have posted is a joke.
Give us Detroit. Same thing?
55, and everybody does 70 plus.
Okay. And here's the thing. It's not being enforced.
40 where I live.
It's 40, and they probably enforce it on Orcas Island, do they? Yeah. Have you noticed this, Zip?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's a traffic hazard to actually have a speed trap. It's more of a hazard than a revenue.
Because everybody jumps on and locks them down.
Well, also in Washington, there's a real push to end highway fatalities, not just from driving, but from people getting hit on the side of the road. So they literally are not pulling people over for speeding so that officers aren't at risk for other drivers coming by and clipping them. I swear.
All right. And they're not promoting this. Like as you drive into the state.
No.
Bring
it.
Bring it. Go as fast as you want.
Yeah.
You know, that's an offshoot.
Darwin is the new speed trap.
Yes.
So
that is an offshoot of texting, though. Really is.
It is completely. Yeah.
Steve Cormier says 80 in Vermont. That's not the speed limit. That's really what people drive. So
average.
See, average age. Average age.
That's Florida. So I'm driving the other day having this thought, and I'm text to speech to text, narrating it into my notes for something to ask about on the podcast. And I thought, this might be the kiss of death. But I am wondering why there are never any speed traps. And it happened because I was on 89 South, and I'm getting onto 9. I was actually on 93, which is the main arterial into Boston. And I'm just going with traffic and noticed I was going 83. I wasn't going 83 on purpose. Like I hadn't looked at the gauge and said, let's go 83. I know that's not an excuse that will hold up in court. And as I dictated that, ask the guys if they've noticed no speed traps lately. I came around a corner, and there in the center pull-off was a cop car pointed at me just like it was a speed trap. I was like, well, that'll be a great story for the podcast too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hit the brakes. That would maybe look unsafe. So I just took off the gas pedal and slowed down to maybe 79. And I looked and I was like, you know, that feeling you have after you go by a cop car, you go, is he coming? Is he
You gonna light him up? You gonna light you up?
light him up?
Yep.
Woo!
I mean, I don't want to say there was a big box of Krispy Kreme donuts in a seat that was more important.
It was an inflatable cop in the car, Bob.
But
defunded the police.
I need to slow people down at that intersection. Sure. That's like the sign that says, we have a security system, and that's just the sign.
Yes.
So there was.
Beware of dog.
It wasn't worth pulling me over for 80 something. I suspect that it's economic.
It is.
You guys
a texter. Well, Texter also mentioned that with police being underfunded, and we have such a shortage of officers in Washington, they can't hire enough people. They're being competitive with other states. They're giving massive signing bonuses, and they can't get enough people to join the police force. More people have left. Yeah. Well, other forces are poaching guys, and guys are leaving the business because the police have gotten such a cruddy role in society, given the few instances of police excessive violence. All police tend to get painted with that brush, and guys who put their lives in line every day are just tired of the grief for no appreciation or money. So we can't find enough cops, so there's not enough cops to pull people over.
And
Detroit just raised.
You just raised something.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Ed. No,
for the record, Detroit just gave our officers a $10,000 raise.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not what I was going to say. What you made me think of, Spike, was the other reason is that one of the most dangerous things a policeman ever does is walk up to a car he just pulled over on the side of the road, or she.
Absolutely.
That's why they're uncapped.
So maybe that's part of it.
It is.
Safety. It's safety.
It's not just everybody doing 80, which they are. I've been passed so much in the last 6 months. I have been passed while doing 80, hypothetically. Right. I've been passed by guys like I was standing still. So like guys doing 100. I mean, literally, they're doing 100 miles an hour up I-5.
Yeah.
So was that guy sitting there in case I was going super fast? So you know how they say like 60 is the new 40, is 90 the new 80? And if you're really bad, they'll pull you over only if it's really, really bad? Or is he there to remind you there are policemen so you won't go crazy?
If you had been driving a Crown Victoria, he would have pulled you over for parts.
Sure. All right. Are we ready for our headliner comedian, Andrew Rivers? Spike, I know you got to go do your show.
Peace out, gentlemen.
Love
it's
you,
been a pleasure.
See you, man.
Cheers. Spike out.
The Bob and Zip Show with Ned Kelly.
Let's welcome on Andrew Rivers, touring comedian, and we haven't seen you in a little while. Where are you? Are you on the road?
I'm home.
Oh, I should have noticed by the messy bed in the back.
That's as made as it gets. So
you know what? Without the hat, he could drive naked on a horse and make a whole new career.
Yeah, he's got that Nelson thing, Nelson twins.
Lady Godiva.
I don't know what any of that means, but
First
I
words,
think that's a compliment.
Lady
Godiva. It's about your long hair.
Good hair.
Yeah. Dude looks like a lady. You know that reference, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
It could have been your daddy, buddy.
Hello, Martin.
Yeah. Anyway, I know why he's growing his hair. He's growing it because he started growing it a few years ago and he did the Mormon special. And when are you going to cut it?
The plan is maybe when I film my next special, they can look at, I'm still in sort of a prove it phase of my career, I think. So if I think, hey, I wrote all these jokes from here to here, that'll be something kind of cool to show for.
No, he meant when are you going to cut it?
Tree,
When are you going to cut it in comedy? Is what he was asking.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'm close to. I've basically got the set, and now it's sort of filling in the cracks and smoothing it out. A lot of this show for me was built last year when I was an opening act on someone else's tour, Steve Hofstetter. And so I was doing 15 minutes at a time every night and writing, different sets of jokes. But now this year I've really wanted to be able to do it all in a row more and headline my own because because there's just differences when you tell the jokes all together as like a 60-minute piece from
flow.
Some of these things work as a chunk, but sometimes you're trying to add on a joke to that, but they don't know your character really well because they've only seen 10 minutes.
Yeah. You have an hour to tell a long story. It's got a beginning, middle, end, and you do callbacks all the way through. Yeah. So I have been bragging about you to my friends a little bit.
Well, thank you.
I want to make sure I'm bragging accurately.
If they're your friends, I doubt they know how to work the internet, so you can just say whatever you want.
Sure.
That's just cold.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm teaching this class, not really teaching, but coaching, I think is a better word, a class in podcasting, because podcasting is so many different things, and it's like that perfume that's different on every woman who wears it. Everyone's got for some people, they're making TikTok videos. For some people, they're on Twitch gaming and building a community that way. And others are doing really good psychological work and training and teaching themselves. And then there's a guy, I'm working with who talks about medical marijuana, which is there's very hard to get expert advice, and these are all passionate things that people are doing and trying to figure out how to monetize, which is a word I can't stand. Monetize usually means I'm doing something I love for free and no one's paying me yet, right?
Well, let's start with the cannabis one. I could give you a few tips, man.
Yes. All right, and well, we're up.
You can monetize marijuana by just hanging out around a 7-Eleven and
yeah.
I'm very passionate about marijuana as well. So if that's what you're bragging about, like, oh, my son's a huge stoner too, you guys could be friends.
No. Here's how I did brag about you. You can monetize your social media in ways that some people don't know anything about. And I don't want to give up any trade secrets or anything,
SEO.
but you're getting, I think you told me a few months ago, millions of views per month on.
Yeah, it's a little down since then, but just because I had a reservoir of content and then
it dried up.
Yeah, well, I got to film this show, and I don't want to, you're like, do I put it out early? Do I put it out when it's finished? Oh, it's so hard.
So it's about content, though, and let's tell people a little bit about how you do it. You post clips.
Yeah.
And right now you're working on a new show, so you can't post all that new stuff before you go out and tour and do it.
Yeah, and that's where like a lot of comedians now are doing a lot of crowd interaction. And that gives you sort of free content to put out and hey, remember how funny I am,
right?
And until
so
you get
you're not going to hang on to that drunk woman from Indianapolis for your special, so you can go ahead and put her on the internet.
Most women don't hang around me, so
but you do get checks from. Can I say?
The last one from Facebook just came in, and it was $400 this month. So
that's not
there's a little bit.
Yeah,
I was just down in LA actually with Keith, and I was at he took me to a comedy show, which is like my favorite activity.
Sure.
and
Keith is his brother.
Yeah, and so. I was just chatting.
John always goes to court for fun in his free time too. He just goes to court and watches other lawyers. I get
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So anyway, I was chatting with one of the other comedians on the show who was about my level or somewhere, and I said, "How do you make a living in Los Angeles?" And he said, "Oh, you have to have a secondary source of income, like he said, for me, my podcast is doing really well.
Right.
And so that covers all the stuff. He's like, you need a secondary source of income. I said, oh, I have that. That's called a roommate. And so,
you're a comic? Which restaurant?
Yeah. We all have our ways to get through.
SEO is yours, so that's a good thing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's great. And at the same time, these algorithms are fickle, and at any given point, the thing could decide, no, we don't like you anymore. You know,
They move the cheese. They could change the rules on you,
and
anytime.
especially when it's going crazy, you're spending hours a day trying to look at the analytics and was it the hashtag? Was it, oh, it's because I got a big pop immediately 5 seconds into the video and that made people stick around, and
It's a dark art.
and it's almost, you're better off spending that time not even thinking about it and just saying that's dumb luck, because when my videos on YouTube were going crazy over the summer, you know, as soon as they would hit 1 million views, it was like the faucet just turns off,
trickle.
and then it stops, and you're like, well, if it's good enough for 1 million, why isn't it good enough for 4 million?
And Facebook, I believe, is like it's artificial intelligence, but it's also their algorithms will, much like radio programmers used to put a record in heavy rotation and then say, all right, we've burned that one enough, let's bring up another artist, and then they put it into, we used to call, when we backpedaled and downplayed an artist, we used to call that lunar rotation. Come around once every 30 days. You know?
Haley's Comet is what mine's at right now.
That's a new one.
And so it is. It's a tough business. But
and each algorithm is different. Like I posted the same video on Facebook and that got 4 million views, and then it got me demonetized on Instagram. You know
why?
It was a joke about. It was the joke where I allegedly sold leftover drugs. And again, Facebook is like, we think this is great content. And Instagram is like, hey, this is a classy joint. This is where people post pictures of their food, you know? So
right. But it was sarcasm. You weren't really selling drugs.
No, I would never do something like that.
No.
Meet me at the 7-Eleven and
No, he showed up at a 5-star restaurant with a wife beater on. That's what happened.
Yeah. What's funny is because my t-shirts are sort of called Xanax the dog t-shirts, I have a store on my Instagram profile, but sometimes once a month, Instagram tries to take it down and they say, you're not allowed to sell Xanax on Instagram. And I'm like, it's the name of the t-shirt. It's not.
And it's probably a bot that does it and not even a human.
Ed, you're absolutely right, because this was part of John Oliver's expose. You saw his artificial intelligence thing, didn't you, Andrew?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. I think the last week one, yeah.
It blows my mind that Andrew sees all this stuff and doesn't have to subscribe to HBO, because that's how I do it, because I'm old and stupid and I didn't cancel my subscription. But yes, it's just algorithms.
And it's the same thing like you're talking about. There's no speed traps. They just set up these cameras and send you a ticket later now.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you explain to the camera, no, I'm a white guy. I'm supposed to get off of the ticket. You know, like, there needs to be some context.
They make the cameras really good for that reason.
Man.
So, yes. I was about to say something that was very good.
Oh.
But being a human being. Oh, with the algorithms, there was this story about, there's a story that algorithms discount people of color. There's also another thing algorithms do where they, if there's some bad input, they can go crazy. I mean, they can literally.
I think John Oliver was talking about they use AI to read resumes now.
Yes,
and
that's the one I was.
Put the formatting differently.
Thank you to the fruit of my loins with some of my DNA. You remembered what I forgot to say.
Yeah. Well, I got where you were going. You know, I thought, it's like, I thought
have you ever
eaten? Take a while.
Have you ever eaten at a Thai restaurant? I'm just kidding.
It's been about 6 months. If you know anyone, I'm in the market.
Okay. See, he doesn't know about the Ron DeSantis story.
I am aware of that story too, but I was making a sexual reference. And boy, it's been 6 months. It wasn't Chinese though, so.
All right. So resumes now, if they're routinely read by AI, they make incredible mistakes. And you think you're writing a resume for a human being, but AI is the best way to weed through thousands of them and refer the ones to the human beings that make the final decision. And John was talking about the ways that AI is already affecting our lives, but we don't know it. The other amazing AI futuristic thing is that AI will be able to write and create not just art and the funny things they're using in stories about it, but it will be able to create businesses. It'll be able to create
movies,
apps. Eventually. Andrew, did you see the Spotify AI DJ yet?
No, I think that was at the beginning of your show, and I was trying to work out my technical stuff, so I didn't.
I still think, and of course, a lot of people think this too, that you can't really replace human creativity because it doesn't follow any logical pattern.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
what
if
program
it follows
directors said.
well, if it follows a logical pattern, what do you call it, Andrew? Lame jokes, bar jokes? What do you?
Oh yeah, maybe hack or maybe
Hack.
yeah.
So I think AI would be a hack at certain kinds of creativity because it could only do the same jokes everyone else is doing. And it can modify them just slightly, but they're still the same dumb hack joke.
Yeah, how do you get the computer, stoned, and then it'll create something?
Andrew, like other creatives, get some inspiration from not medical, recreational marijuana. And tell me a little about what that does for you. Just opens your because I remember
a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of maybe more in touch with or sort of feeling insignificant and your place in the world. I feel like it feels great. 5 stars.
It might actually be a thing and get popular. Yeah.
Well, sometimes people say like marijuana makes you stupid, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that's the point. If you can blur sometimes reality a little bit, like Photoshop the world. And sometimes when I go on hikes, it's I like to appreciate nature while I'm appreciating nature, but sometimes you just notice like the colors and the trees more because you're almost not worried about taxes and bills and the weight of everyday life. You sort of got a relief of a little bit of pressure. And
you know what else, Andrew? Sometimes people say marijuana makes you stupid, man.
Yeah. I feel like I've heard that somewhere, but
well, it's interesting to me partially because after not touching it for 3 decades, with my neuropathies and my cancer and my nausea and my chemo and the radiation, it was the only thing. It worked better than a nausea medication. But I also have to admit that, did I get high like the old days? No, because in the old days, I don't know about you, but Zip and I remember. Zip remembers like Pepperidge Farm.
You guys were higher than lab rats, man.
Yeah, the whole point was to get baked, and really, to our detriment, it did make us incapacitated, stupid. And then today, it's so strong that I have to admit that yes, has it made music sound incredible? And I sit there and listen to music after doing a very small amount, 5 milligrams or less. That helps with migraines, that completely got rid of nausea. And I have to say, well, I'm no longer like against it. And if that's relapse, then I guess that is. But I also don't I'll forget about it for a week or 2 at a time. I don't think that happens to you, Andrew. I think you don't forget about it for a week or 2.
It's funny you bring that up. Actually, I've been trying to give myself breaks. Just because I've been a mostly daily user for a while. And so like I'll go on tour for a week and then I'll just not bring any with me. Now, part of the problem is that everywhere you go, people have weed now. So they're like, you want some? And I'm like, I do actually.
Yeah. It's free. I can't turn down a free donut. I'm sure I'd do the same with pot.
But I actually have 5 days without marijuana right now. And
wow.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a coin for that, but there's a lot of loose change in my couch.
Do you gummy up before a performance?
Gummy up. That's
no, I try to stay as sober as I can throughout the day before the show. But sometimes you're just feeling good, and you're definitely sharper without it. will affect your performances, but
Yeah.
you've
been at shows where they purposely say this is a stoner show, and
yes,
you actually
if you
are
look
supposed to
up,
get high.
like if you can Google the
Yeah.
dope show, you know that the whole point of those shows is to
be stupid on
right,
top.
and the hardest part is being sober all day so you can perform a sober set, and then you take a break mid-show. And now that other drugs are legalized in Oregon, they're having
you're not going to do mushroom night. No,
and acid and
no.
So I have not signed up yet, just but I'm sure that'll be something in my future here.
Welcome to psilocybin night, ladies and
Because
gentlemen.
I think if you can try drugs in a controlled environment, that's much safer. I'm gonna be a cool dad, like you can drink at my house, I probably would. I would probably say, like, I would, even if I had kids, I would say, like, don't even bother drinking because that's the dumbest thing. But everything else is probably a little more better for the brain, I think.
Good Bob. He's gonna melt down.
I do think, by the way, to be really honest about this, I do think that expanding your consciousness is a part of altering reality. I just think that, much like anything else,
since Christ was a boy,
it can be overdone, and it can be a
Right.
trap, and you don't
I'm
know.
not fiending. I haven't sold anyone's jewelry, or like it's not that big of a deal. But
I'm so glad cocaine never entered your life. That's all.
Bob, look in Lisa's drawers.
so also glad for that. Everybody I know that does it is not fun to be around. So, I don't hang around those people.
It was a neat thing about having my kids, and the fact that I didn't drink was this was their normal.
Yeah.
So Keith came home, and he was like, "I was at Jeff's house. His dad is an alcoholic," and I said, "Why?" He said, "I watched him during the football game. He drank beer," and I said, "Well, how much beer did he have?" He said, "I counted. He had 3 beers," and I said, "In 3 hours? Yeah, he's an alcoholic." I said, "Well, you're absolutely right." It's kind of interesting. Anyway, I find it interesting because I'm very proud of you, but you do a lot of things in moderation, and you have respect for people, and you're kind of a bit of a loner like me in some ways, who puts himself out there in front of people, the opposite, and seeks approval, which is sometimes not freely given.
Well,
clearly more than not.
It's I'm not trying to be a loner. It just
it just happened.
It's just natural, I guess.
You like your privacy, though. You like your
For sure. I mean, there's some social anxiety. A lot of it is, I think that's sometimes what stunts me with dating is like almost just knowing that a girl likes me is enough, because from then on, I can imagine that it went well instead of the reality, which is I probably ruin it, So
I think you should ask her if she wants to go to a Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
If she gets the joke, she's a liberal, and you'll probably get along with her.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think, we're hanging in there. I also get like, I think highly of myself, and I think, and some people might argue too much.
I think highly of myself too.
Yeah. So, I meet a lot of people that I just don't feel like are on, are worth my time. And also my career, I justify a lot with like, I'm on this rocket ship trying to escape Earth's gravity. And like, if I can just, get to a certain spot, if I can just get in orbit where, but I will say that the biggest difference this year has been I'm making a little bit more money. So now I can afford to like take a girl out and not like her after 2 dates. And I don't go like, oh, I really wish I had that $50 back now, because the electricity bill is going to be coming up late,
Andrew Rivers. Andrew Rivers, comedian. Let's give him a big round of applause. All right. Thank you all for listening. I do want to mention that, and I'm putting it last in the show. It's sort of like PBS. The show is brought to you by Bob and Lisa's Maple Syrup.
PBS was underwritten by the Syrup Foundation.
Yes, syrup. It's good for you in reasonable amounts, about the same way Andrew does pot. Don't overdo it.
Plant-based sugars are better than others.
Otherwise, you might be a diabetic. Okay. Oh, how are you feeling, Shelley Murphy? So let's go. Hey, now that we're done, Dave, let's bring back our web developer, Dave. Dave is by the way, he's the Wizard of Oz behind us.
Yes.
Thank you, Dave.
Hey.
And Dave is like, I don't want to talk. Don't make me talk. Go ahead and throw up the questions because I don't like to disrupt to read the questions during the show.
Or just go ahead and throw up.
Any you think is worth answering. We'll finish that way. This is how Steve Hofstetter ends his shows.
Yeah.
With his comics.
Again, it's creating content, you know.
Hand pink waving. What does that mean?
I think that means his emoji didn't work.
Steve Cormier asks, how much snow in Springfield? Almost 2 feet. And today I saw that we had about 600 gallons of sap. And I literally decided to be a Vermonter and go out in the four-wheel drive vehicle, drive up to the farm, back up to the sap shed. At any time, I could have got stuck and not gotten out, but I'm retired. So, and I like the danger and
adventure.
And also Hank usually does the hard outdoor work of pumping the sap. And if anything gets backed up in the next week or so while I'm here, I want to be able to do it. And I sort of had forgotten. So I pumped the sap, barely got the vehicle back to the barn. And then I boiled and made about 12 gallons of maple syrup. And when I got out, I went, oh my God, another 8 inches fell.
Yeah, nor'easter, you guys, right?
Oh, it's crazy. It's probably close.
I have a
2 feet.
question because don't the lines freeze up? Isn't that why you try to wait until March? But if you get a big late snowstorm, does that slow down the process more?
It's all weather dependent. And what you want is cold nights, but not too cold, and warm days, but not too warm. And during that 5 or 6 weeks that happens, you collect the sap, and we do it with a vacuum pump. And some days we even have as much as 12, 13, 1,400 gallons worth of sap. Today was a 500 or 600 gallon, and you know, I could make 12, 13 gallons of syrup. But I did it all alone. And then when I was done, I almost didn't get out the road. The car did this thing where it swished around and stopped. And I was like, uh-oh. And the only thing I could do is back up and try it again with more speed, which could go bad in the snow. But I got over the hill, and I got here. Ed saw about 4 minutes before the podcast. So if not,
you were over the hill before, though.
If not, I would have done it from the phone. Thank you. From the phone, like Spike does. All right. Any other questions?
I got a little something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the private comment that I uploaded a video in regards to the AI creating creative content.
Yes.
This is the greatest thing I've seen all week. Let me
go ahead, play it.
Okay.
Cats, always on the prowl. They're sneaky and sly with their eyes on the goal. They're the kings of the house, they rule with a purr. Eminem loves cats, can't you tell from this verse? They're independent, they do what they please, but they always come back. When you have some teens, they rub against your legs, they pull in your rear. They're the best companions, they're always near, but don't get on their bad side, they're scratching their bite. They have their own minds, they won't be denied. They're the bosses of the house, they run the show, but we love them anyway. They're our feline bras, they're me out for food. They're me out for play, they're me out for attention. They want it their way, but we can't stay mad. They're too cute to scold. We give in to their demands, their charms are too bold. Meow, 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 meow. They're the kings of the house, kings of the house. They run the show, They don't need a spouse, they're the best pets they have. Feel afraid, Eminem loves cats, another buried in. They may drive us crazy with their constant meow, but we can't stay mad. This still our heart with a single purr.
So I did see that, and I'm gonna steal the line from John Oliver. The AI is never going to be as good as a human being. I mean, they rhymed house with spouse and left mouse sitting
We're
there.
looking at the beta version, though. Like in 10 years, this thing's going to be incredible.
Exponentially better.
We are heading into a post-truth world.
a post-reality world. Even.
Yeah.
I think you're
I
right.
can't wait.
Andrew.
I'm going to be so popular in there.
Well, shall we
You won't
all
get the air
apologize
miles.
to you for that? Very, very sorry. Very, very sorry. All right, everybody. Is that the last question?
There wasn't any burning questions I didn't catch, or I
no
didn't
worries.
star.
Yeah.
What will Purdue do? Poor Frank.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Be well.
Bob and Zip